Finding the motivation to eat with ADHD when you have to eat multiple times a day, every day for the rest of your life can be really overwhelming and really challenging, but it doesn't have to always be like this. Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Liv. I'm a nutritionist and intuitive eating counselor with ADHD, and I work with people with ADHD. And eating in general, not just eating nutritiously in ways that support your brain and hormones, just eating, period, can be a huge barrier for people with ADHD because without the right approach, eating really does require a lot of executive function, a lot of organization, steps, planning. And again, this is something we have to do at least 3 times a day, every day, forever. So since it's such a regular task that we have to do, we can't really opt out of it. This can really impact our motivation to eat regularly or just eat, period. It can almost result in a paralysis-like state where you know you should eat, you know that you'll probably feel better if you do eat, but just having such a hard time with actually doing that. And something that I think makes it so much worse is just the lack of acknowledgement around all these barriers that people with ADHD and so many neurodivergent folks face around eating and being able to eat regularly. Like any other thing that involves being a neurodivergent person, just figuring out how to exist in a neurotypical society, it just involves finding the right approach that works for your brain so you can access food regularly and eat regularly and are motivated to do so. This is what I work on with clients. So this is my first long YouTube video. So this is what I have in store for the framework, just what to expect. So the first little bit right after this, we're going to get into some potential reasons behind the why for why so many people with ADHD have a hard time motivating themselves to eat in general, just eat regularly and build that understanding as kind of like a foundation before we get into different strategies around finding motivation to eat regularly with ADHD. And then from there, I'll be getting into 5 different strategies for finding motivation to eat with ADHD. But these are things that I work on with clients that I've experimented with myself over the past few years and that I have studied and done a lot of research on, just kind of like a combination of all those things. Hey, this is Future Liv. I'm just editing the video now and it is really long and I want to keep it much shorter for attention span. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm still going to go over the 5 different strategies for finding motivation to eat when you have ADHD briefly, and then I'm going to get into some of the reasons why we have a hard time finding motivation to eat, and then I will make separate longer videos for each strategy. I'm not sure if it'll be a few strategies per video or one per video. I'm just kind of like getting into the flow of making YouTube videos. If you're not subscribed to me yet, then be sure to do that and turn on notifications so you don't miss a video. So the first one is around access to food and what I have just been calling the 3 levels of food access. Then the second one is going to be around the satisfaction factor. This is really central to intuitive eating and something that I have found is also so essential to eating with ADHD when it comes down to it, just making sure that you are enjoying the foods you're eating, you're excited about them, and you're able to connect to how they're making you feel as well. And the third one is around experimenting with structure, but also finding flexibility and fluidity within that structure when it comes to food. Fourth one, building interoceptive awareness or interoception, another big intuitive eating concept. This just refers to your ability to be able to recognize and tune into the signals that your body sends to your brain about what it needs, and then being able to respond to those. We'll talk mostly about hunger and fullness signals and how to work with those when you have a really hard time recognizing them, because that's really common with ADHD. And then the last one is going to be around remembering that it's a process. It does take time to improve your relationship with food with ADHD. It does take time to find the right tools that work for you. Just remembering the importance of kind of seeing the bigger picture and doing your best to be kind to yourself throughout the process and having self-compassion, not only because having self-compassion throughout this process is actually going to make it a lot more effective in terms of finding motivation to eat more regularly and being able to eat more regularly with ADHD, but it is also such an important tool for improving the quality of your life, especially as a neurodivergent person in neurotypical society. So finding the motivation to eat is a huge issue that a lot of people with ADHD experience. Most of the clients that I've worked with, if not all of them, have definitely experienced this from time to time or super regularly. So some potential reasons that could be contributing to having such a hard time finding the motivation to eat. I think one of the biggest ones is just our neurochemistry. People with ADHD generally have less dopamine available than neurotypical people. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter, one of the main neurotransmitters behind motivation and being able to connect a task with a reward, and then with that being able to actually do that thing. Another big one, just being in a chronic state of overwhelm. Again, something I see in most of my clients, something that I've definitely experienced for a lot of my life, just being a neurodivergent person. Just trying to make it in a very neurotypical society. This can get really exhausting and result in burnout. And it really requires a lot of energy just to be able to function in a neurotypical society as a neurodivergent person, which doesn't really leave a lot of energy left for tasks like eating, which typically does require quite a bit of energy in terms of planning what you want to eat, going out, getting the groceries, putting groceries away, actually cooking, actually eating, cleaning up, cooking for other people if you have to do that, and then having to do it again the next day. Just all those things, very energy intensive. Another reason why folks with ADHD may have a really hard time motivating themselves to eat is difficulty tuning into hunger and fullness signals, especially hunger for the motivation to eat. People with ADHD often have lower interoceptive awareness than neurotypical folks. This is also referred to as interoception. They're pretty much the same thing, but this is basically our ability to recognize the signals that our body sends to our brain about what it needs, and then being able to respond to those. We may have a harder time tuning into the reality that we're hungry or hunger. Our body may express that in ways that aren't seen as normal. Like usually people think of hunger as like a rumbling stomach, but we may not experience that. We may experience it more as irritability or dizziness or thinking about food. There's so many other ways. And this could also really be impacted by stimulant medication. A lot of stimulant medications are appetite suppressants, which just makes the situation a lot worse, or can. I think too, our ability to hyperfocus on things, if we're really focused on work or something we're studying that day, or just like whatever it is we're focused on, all of our attention is going there, and then that doesn't leave a lot of attention left for being aware of signals that our body is sending us about what it may need. The last one that I'm going to talk about that is huge is just decision fatigue. Again, something I see in most of my clients, something that I've definitely experienced a lot. There's so many options for what you can eat, and you don't really have structure or a strategy to support you on how to eat or what to eat. It can get really overwhelming really fast and can look like standing in front of the fridge for 5 to 10 minutes trying to figure out what to eat. With so many options, it's almost too much and can again result in an almost paralysis-like state. When this occurs, it's often a lot easier to just go on not eating and not eat anything than actually figure out how to put stuff together and make food for yourself. Another barrier that can really affect our motivation to eat is the amount of sensory sensitivities that a lot of folks with ADHD will experience around food. It's really common to just like not be able to eat in certain foods based on things like their texture or smell. I find that texture is the biggest one, but a lot of things that activate our senses in a weird way that's not pleasant. A lot of the times we just won't be able to eat those foods. So that just adds another barrier to eating, and another barrier just makes motivation even harder. And finally, the higher incidence of allergies, food sensitivities, and gut conditions in folks with ADHD. Just having different food needs and having a lot of restrictions also is another barrier to eating regularly, and that, with everything else I've talked about in the video, can really add up and just impact our motivation to actually eat regularly. Okay, so to summarize, basically our neurochemistry, chronic stress, overwhelm, difficulty recognizing hunger signals, decision fatigue, and having more restrictions to what we can eat due to higher sensory sensitivities, as well as things like more food allergies, sensitivities, and gut conditions. All of these really impact our motivation to eat with ADHD. And of course, these are not all the reasons. These are just some of the more common ones. But if there are any that I missed that you experienced, then please let me know in the comments, and also comment if there are any that I said that you really resonate with as well. Basically, lack of motivation is a huge barrier to eating with ADHD. And I just wanted to make a video around kind of exploring why this happens as a big reminder and public service announcement that you are not the only one struggling with this. So many people struggle with this. It's just not talked about a lot. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're just a neurodivergent person doing your best to exist in a very neurotypical ableist society. The biggest takeaway that I hope you get is that just because these are your eating patterns right now doesn't mean that this always has to be something you struggle with. Changing your eating habits as well as how you're accessing food with ADHD, it really does take time. But as I've mentioned several times in this video, eating is something that we have to do every day, multiple times a day, forever. And I know that sounds very devastating to a lot of you, but I also think there is a silver lining to this, in that pretty much every day is an opportunity to improve our relationship with food and how we're accessing food, and work on improving our motivation to eat more regularly with ADHD, which is what I will be getting into more so in the next few videos. We'll be getting more into strategies for how to actually motivate yourself to eat with ADHD. So the next one is going to be all around food access and what I've been calling the 3 levels of food access. So if you haven't yet, be sure to like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the videos around the actual strategies. Thank you so much for watching.